Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Tom Laux here with the City of Marshfield's Communications Department, and we're doing the school board candidates for the election coming up on the 20th of February. That is the primary election. We have 7 candidates and going to narrow that down to 6, so only one will be removed after the primary for the general election in April. And I get a chance to interview all 7, I hope. And today we have Nicole Forst here, right?
Yes, correct.
Thanks so much for coming. And we're going to get to know you a bit more, ask you some questions, and hopefully help the voters out there know more about you. And they can make good decisions when they go out and vote.
Excellent.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about who you are, where you're from, a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Nicole Forst. I am from Stratford. I have lived in the district for the past 10 years. I have 3 children in the public school system. In the fall, I will have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary student. So I will be exposed to all areas within the school system. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited about that. I have been involved in Marshfield quite heavily. I was involved with Grant Elementary PTO for the past 5 years. I also volunteer in the first grade classroom there. Outside of volunteering in the school, I am involved with Marshfield Youth Wrestling, Marshfield Wrestling, Silver Laces, ice skating, and I also am working on creating a volleyball club for some 6th graders. So we have been, when I say we, I have been very busy, and I enjoy it.
Well, that sounds great, and I can see why you're probably wanting to run. You have 3 children in the district, and education is really important to you and your family. And you kind of touched why, but let's dig into that a little bit more. Is this your first time or second time, I believe, running for election?
Yep. So my first time running, I ran for school board last year. I came very, very close to making the board, but I lost in the end, which it happens. I was running against some really strong candidates, so I'm glad the people who were elected have been doing well. I see that there's 3 open seats right now, so I'm hoping that I will be able to make one of those seats. My passion for this is I feel like I have a great voice for the district, and I want to be able to drive changes for both our students and our teachers.
All right. Any issues that you would like to talk about that maybe motivated you to want to do this?
So when I started volunteering at Grant Elementary, I noticed there was a lack of parent involvement. There's over 600 kids that go to Grant, and we'd have events and we'd have the same 20 people come. And I started thinking, well, if I can get involved and start involving others, I feel that would be a great thing. Another thing that I want to really push is transparency within the district. I feel that at a district level, our transparency is very, very low. I don't feel that the community knows everything that's going on. At a teacher level, I feel that transparency, I've been very happy with the teachers my children have had. But to get the community involved, I think it would be better to have more transparency at the district level.
Well, you've had a chance to be involved in some of the activities that you had mentioned, and I think that's important to learn about people. That's probably why you feel transparency is important as well, because you hear from a lot of those constituents. You mentioned some of the activities and organizations you're involved with. Is there anything additional that you would want to say on that area that may help you in a position if elected?
I vow going forward to keep that transparency open and exposing what's going on. Based off of my experience working with those clubs, I see what people want to know. I hear what people want to have brought forward.
All right. And we'll get into the PR a little bit later on. Okay. We'll talk about that again, which has to do with some transparency. But what differentiates you from other candidates or even the incumbents here that are running?
I feel I am very passionate because I really want what's best for all of our students, especially my own children. I have enthusiasm. I work well with others. I'm open-minded. Even if I have a view on something, I listen to other people's opinions. And in fact, I've had 2 experiences where I've changed my views on things after listening to others. One of those times was when I started in Grant Elementary PTO. They were requesting money to take their students on a field trip to go to the movie theater. And I thought, really? You're asking for money for this? And looking back, I thought, well, they don't need to do this. One of the teachers said there are students that aren't able to do this, and they should get rewarded too because they work hard. And it really opened my eyes to realize, I need to open my mind and listen to what other people have to say. And I'm glad we donated the money for them to go on the field trips. And again, that's not taxpayer money, that's money that's been raised through our PTO. And I also have another instance where after COVID, they changed the high school system to not have 1-hour blocks every day. So instead of having 8 classes in a day, they have either odd even days or they have ABC days. So one day you have 4 classes, the next day you have a different set of 4 classes. And I thought, why would you want to do that? I liked, when I was in high school, I had 8 classes a day. It worked out great for me. After talking to students who were in that realm, they love it. And the reason why they like it, they have time to ask questions to the teacher. They have time to get their work done. And I changed my views on it, that, well, maybe this is a good thing. So I wanted to expose how I am open to change in those aspects.
Okay. Well, that kind of reminds me of college.
Right, right.
Because, you have 3 days, you have 1 class, 2 days. Now, this is a long time ago. I'm dating myself, but that's what it was.
Right.
So in high school, it was 7 classes, and that was it. And then when you changed, you had time to study or do something. It's not the next day right away. So I see what you're mean on that. So good. All right. We were talking about the differences. Now let's talk about any issues. And I kind of picked out 2. You can name more, but and they don't have to be issues. But what are the 2 things that you would like to address if you were on the school board?
My number 1 is transparency, which I've already said. And looking back, last year we all knew we had a referendum. That referendum did fail. It was impossible to find where that money was going that was being requested. And I feel if there would have been more transparency, there could have been a different outcome. In those cases, you have to push that information to the public. You can't expect the public to go find it. You have to push for those things. Another thing was the valedictorian and salutatorian recognition. That's no longer done, but nobody could say why. So it's a matter of let's go back and revisit this. I feel that that's very important. They do recognize the top either 5% or 10% at graduation, which is important, but number 1 and number 2 should really be recognized as well. So those are some examples of transparency. I've also brought up the parent lacking engagement. That's huge, huge, huge. Like I said, it's very low in the elementary. And as they get older, it's less parent involvement. My middle schooler, the only time I see other parents involved is at sporting events. Another thing that I feel would be important is the mental health. We all know there's a mental health shortage. COVID really came to light and showed all those things. We need to be, we know there's the shortage, but we need to be open to what works for our students. For example, do we have a basketball game during the day and say, hey, let's go watch this basketball, and have them even play and make new friends, and maybe they develop a love for a new sport. Different ways to address the mental health. And then finally, I feel that there needs to be more teacher and support recognition, saying, hey, there's the Crystal Apple Awards, but what else is there? I mean, I don't hear much outside of what's going on at the other schools like Lincoln, Nasonville, Washington. The middle school I hear about, but are these teachers getting the recognition they deserve?
All right. I'm going to skip down a little bit because we're on the topic of transparency, communications. It's very important to you. And we talk about, or I have a question I should say, but public relations, the role of the school board. And right now, you're telling me that it's lacking. What would you do? How could you improve that if elected? Is it hiring communications individuals? I know there's no communications staff in the school district at all. As being a communications director for the city, I know there isn't one there. Is that what it needs? Does it need more people? But then that costs money.
Right. I think, in my opinion, it doesn't take much effort to send out an email. Hey, there's a school board meeting tonight. You're more than welcome to come. We want you to attend. And I know there's state statutes that you don't set the agendas until I think it's 48 or 72 hours in advance. But just giving people a heads up saying, hey, this is coming, we want you there, and just trying to push it, as I said, push instead of having people look for that information would be very helpful. Especially
in today's world, push notifications are things that we all get, don't we?
Right.
We didn't have them when we grew up. We had to go dig for it. But today's world is faster. It just is.
Right.
And there's a lot of things happening. And what you're recommending is to have more of a communication that would push things out rather than trying to search and look on your own.
Right.
So that's one of the ideas that you were thinking of if you were to get in the board to bring that up.
Right. And the middle school last year, which I wasn't able to attend, had morning coffee with the principal. And I thought, that's kind of a neat idea.
Yep.
Most people like coffee, and it was just a neat idea to have.
It is. We used to do coffee with the cop.
That's cool.
Yeah, coffee with the mayor. We did that. Not here, but in other cities. But yeah, so very good ideas, and we'll see if you get in that something like that would be of interest to the board. So let's move on a little bit more before we take a little break. Experiences and skills that you have to be a board member. What do you have?
So, as I said, I've been very involved with wrestling. I've been involved with Silver Laces. I'm also on the McMillan Town Board, so I've been exposed to meetings and how they're run, and you have to look at the best interest of everyone, not just how you may personally feel, but you are put in that place because you are elected to represent the best for everyone involved, which it does require compromise. You have to make compromises in order to have successful results.
Okay. How are you running your campaign? Are you just kind of doing it by word of mouth? Are you raising money? People always kind of want to know.
I am doing it by social media. Since I ran last year, I do already have signs made, so there are some signs out there. I'm in the process of getting mailers made and door hangings done, doing some door-to-door. I have some friends who have been helping. They said, when you go door knocking, I'll help you. At this time, I do not have any endorsements. And again, if people do endorse me and say, yeah, vote for Nicole, it's their choice to do it. I'm not saying, hey, do this for me. It's what they're doing coming forward.
Alrighty, sounds good. Well, we're going to take a quick break. Again, if you're joining us, we're talking to Nicole Forst. She's one of the candidates that's running for the school board primary, and that is coming up on February 20th. We have more questions, so please stay tuned with us. We appreciate you watching, and we're doing this with all 7 candidates. So we'll be right back with more questions with Nicole.
On each episode of The Jet Set, we have your passport to travel, food, lifestyle tips, and fun.
That's right, hang out with us and buckle up for the talk and tips you need to be an expert traveler, live better, and be inspired to embrace the on-the-go lifestyle.
Don't miss The Jet Set right here on Marshfield Now.
Well, welcome back, and thanks again for joining us here on our school board questions for the primary. And I'm here with Nicole Forst, and we're going to continue our discussion for the upcoming primary that she's running for. Out of 7 people, there's going to be a race coming up here. So let's talk about this question that we talked about just before we went back on, behaviors and attributes with the school board. How should the school board behave?
Well, I think it's important to have a diverse school board. Any board should be diverse because everybody has different opinions and thoughts on what's best. And what we should do is work together, set our differences aside, and not be cruel or rude, but bring up valid points saying this is why this is important. This would be the goal is for the students. So we have to focus on the goal. And I know sometimes people get stressed out, so that's when you say, okay, let's take a time out, take a breather, and let's get back to the point. Not saying that you can't get upset, but we always have to keep in mind what's the best for the student, what's best for the teachers, and we need to work together. That's the common goal.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about roles and school board roles from the superintendent's role, which is a paid position. It's not an elected position. Administration, again, that is not the board. But what are the responsibilities? Do you feel there is differences, and how do you do that and primarily work for the board, not this administrator? Is there any difference there?
So I feel that the school board is the one that should hold everybody accountable for what their job is. And that comes down to we are oversighting what's part of the budget. Do we need to adjust the budget? Do we need to go into a referendum? Do we need to discuss in more detail with certain departments saying, hey, you know, you're under or over budget. Everybody wants to be under, but we all know in society how that goes. We need to also look at educational standards. For example, technology. Do all grades need iPads? Is this the way we're going forward? Is that the best use of our time and money? We're also responsible for reviewing and updating policies to make sure that we're in line with what is in our state statutes for education and how other schools and our community would utilize what's best for our students.
Okay. All right. We did talk about opinions and how the best way to address that. Any more on that topic and how you should address it? Should you address it during a board meeting or should you address it one-on-one?
I would address it one-on-one. And if bad behavior in the board continues, I wouldn't have a problem saying, okay, we need to step back and look at the problem here. I don't appreciate this going on. Why are we continuing to go down this path? And as I said, it's good to have a diverse board because that's really what you want and need.
Okay. We did talk a little bit about public relations. I'll just bring it up here, one more thing on it, being accessible to the community. Who needs to be accessible? Is it the board president? Is it the board members? Is it the whole group? What's your feeling on that?
I feel the whole group should be accessible if there's questions or concerns. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, I'm going to get a response right away. Depending on the issue that's brought up or the concern, there may need to be a closed session. There may need to be a separate meeting to talk about what is going on. Due to how the state handles boards, you cannot have more than so many people in a quorum. So if there is an issue, you have to follow the laws. That's important too. You don't want to break the laws. So it takes time to address things. And I hope people understand that just because you contact the school board on a Monday, that it won't necessarily be resolved by that Tuesday. So it does take time, but understanding that, yes, we are looking into things. And in addition to, only the president and I believe the superintendent can set the agendas for meetings. They are the two that would have the responsibility of that. So even if I were to request something to be on the agenda, it's ultimately up to the president to say this is what's going to be on the agendas for the next meeting.
How do you deal with media if they were to ask a question? Is there any idea that can any board member work with the media? Maybe you're not aware because you're not on the board, but how would you approach that if the media was asking certain questions?
Well, it depends on the topic. I would ask or say you can attend the next board meeting. Some things you just can't expose to the media. There's just certain limitations, and there's the confidentiality and safety, and there's a process to things. And not saying that the media wouldn't ask questions. I mean, it's easy to go on the internet and say, hey, what's going on here? But there is a process, and I am not afraid to say, please attend the next meeting, and then you'll find out what's coming at this time I'm not able to talk about this issue at hand.
So I think they do have an open question at the beginning of every
They have
school board?
comments,
Public comment?
public comments, and I think you get 2 minutes to talk.
So that's always a good time to bring something up as well. All right. Well, earlier off air, we were talking about the quality of education is really good here. Very happy with that.
Yes.
What else can the district do to help prepare students, make it even better?
So I have, as I've said, have three children in the district, and I've been very happy with the teachers that they've had. My children have excelled in areas that really impressed me. My youngest actually does struggle with reading, but his teacher right now is going above and beyond to help make sure that he stays on track. He just needs that little extra push to keep him going forward, and I so appreciate that. And in fact, the other day, I got a call from the school, and every parent thinks, oh no, it's the school. What did my child do? Are they sick? Here it was a phone call saying that he had gotten all his reading words correct. I'm like, well, that's nice to hear the positive side of things too. So I've been very happy with that. What I also am happy with is the options that are available in the high school. So last year when there was the referendum, they had the open tours at the high school. And everybody says college, college, college. Well, they have a fantastic tech program that I wasn't even aware about until last year. And this is with automotive, this is with electrical, this is with plumbing. These are all the trade jobs that I was very impressed with. And in fact, to even reach out in the community, they open up classes. I think they allow only 12, but adults to join and say, and this is after school, obviously, but to get the community more involved that way. And I think that's fantastic.
You bet. I didn't even know that either.
I saw it on Facebook. So,
yeah, there you go.
know, if there was communications that went out to everybody other than Facebook, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, unfortunately, social media has kind of been some people's go-to.
Right.
And it's not always the go-to that works for everybody.
Right.
And a lot of people get left out.
Yeah.
And that's why it's hard to communicate in today's world. It's not just the newspaper or television anymore.
Right.
Like when you and I grew up. We were talking about achievement and making sure everyone is getting better and doing better. But college is always right around the corner. But you're telling me now that they have these programs for not secondary school, but like a tech school.
Yep.
So you feel that right now that the school is doing a good job of preparing them for the next level after graduation?
At least giving them an entry level of what options are available.
Okay.
In fact, last summer they had a 3-day welding class.
Wow.
And I thought that's neat, and I signed my oldest up. Yep. Didn't even give him the option to sign him up. And he said, this is really neat. And if I wouldn't have signed him up, I don't think he would have had any interest in it. Yeah. So just having all the options, the diversified classes, like there's advanced classes too. As I said, I don't have a high schooler right now, but I know that there are advanced courses and college classes that you can take. So they try to give as many options as possible for students to prepare for society after graduation.
All right, that's great. Any other visions that you have for education within this community, maybe even beyond the school?
So our report card for the school came out recently, and I took a look at it and compared it to the last 3 years, and sadly it has been dropping. I don't know why. The numbers can be numbers, and you can look at it however you want, but it doesn't give you a warm, great feeling. So I looked at other schools that are comparable to Marshfield, and I looked at DC Everest. They're a D1 school. While they're not in Wood County, they are relatively close, and they are in our, we play them in sports. Mm-hmm. Their report card has gone up. So I'd like to know, what are they doing differently, and is there anything we can do? I'd also like to get teacher input of, this works really well, or yeah, we're not really doing the best right here, and try to come up with ideas on how to improve things. And as we all know, we have a limited budget, so it's a matter of what can we do and being creative to work together with the common goal at the end.
Okay. Well, let's talk about budgets since we're on the topic of budgets. Those are always so fun to talk about. But if you're elected, what's your experience in a budget or making cuts? Would you make cuts if you had to?
So since I have not been exposed as much as I'd like to the district, I've seen areas, but not everything. I'd like to know, where is our money going? Is it going to paying our teachers, paying our support staff? Is it going to purchasing paper? Is it going to maintenance? Where's it going? There's some things that you just have to look at closer. I know at Grant, their windows leak, so that's something we need to address. And how do you address it? When can you address it? You can't just move money from one area to another, unfortunately. I wish we could. It has to stay in its designated bucket unless it's voted on that you could look into further. So I'd like to look into it, drill into things some more, and see where are there areas that we could trim the fat, essentially.
Sure. What about taxes? Do you increase those for the taxpayer, or do you not? Do you try to keep it steady, or do you look for that as an option to find more money?
I am very frugal when it comes to taxes. I want to be able, if there's a need and there's something that has to be done, that's something we need to be transparent on and why. I don't necessarily recommend, we always need to increase our taxes. There's a reason for that. As long as it's justifiable, then I think it would be something that I could present and say, yes, this is a great idea.
Okay. Do you feel the school district is going in the correct direction, or are they going in the wrong direction, or the same?
From my experience with my children, I feel that they're not going in a wrong direction. I wish they could probably continue the way they are going, but I'd like to see more of, hey, this is what Marshfield's doing. This is how great we are, and really pushing, this is what we are doing that's going well. Like I said, the trade jobs, that's a great example. Getting people aware of that.
Yeah, they do make quite a bit of money in those jobs compared to what it may be used to, and they're needed as we see every day.
Well, and I feel that if you work with the community and there's a strong trust with the community, the parents, and the school, I think everything will harmonize and we work well together. Not saying there won't be disagreements, because there are, but
right.
I think if everybody is fully aware of what's going on, and if we could get parent involvement to improve, I think that would be a huge step in the right direction.
All right. Last question. Tell the voters why they should vote for you on the 20th of February.
So I feel that you should vote for me because I pledge transparency and communication. And as I said, as a parent of children in the district, I truly want what is best for my kids and your children. And I will do my best to make sure we all work together to harmonize our community.
Alrighty. Well, with that, thank you so much, Nicole, for joining us here on our Get to Know. And we'll see what happens after the election takes place on the 20th.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty. Thanks again for watching us on our program, Get to Know the Candidate.